Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, man? Antonelli here.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? Matt Antonelli here, answering your questions today. Today's question is, when was I most impressed on the baseball field? There's been a lot of times in my career where something has happened and I said, wow, that's really impressive. But there's been one time that really sticks out in my head, and so we're going to talk about that today. It involves Jacoby Ellsbury. So I'm sure most of you know who Jacoby Ellsbury is. Played with the Red Sox for a long time, then with the Yankees for a while. Really athletic center fielder, can fly, steal bases, all that stuff. So Jacoby and I were on the same team in the Cape Cod League, which is a summer collegiate league, pretty much the best summer league in the country. And I played there with him after my freshman year at Wake Forest. He played at Oregon State. He was a year older than me, so that was after his sophomore year at Oregon State. And so uh, we're in the Cape Cod League. It's early in the year. We played a couple games, and then there's this like scout day. Um, Now they do it at Fenway Park, but I'm pretty sure they still do it at Fenway Park. My freshman year, we did it at Wareham, so the Wareham Gateman's Stadium. And so what you do is you go through basically like a little workout. You take ground balls, fly balls, you run the 60-yard dash, you'll hit BP and all that stuff. Bunch of scouts come in and watch you do it. So it's early in the year, and just remember, no one at this point knows who Jacoby Ellsbury is. I don't even think at this time he was really projected to be a super high pick. And the season had just kind of started, so we didn't really know anybody really well. And so we're going through and we're doing the workout, and it's time to run the 60-yard dash. And usually when you run the 60-yard dash, you partner up. So there's two guys that go at the same time, and I guess it's supposed to kind of help push you, feel like you're racing somebody. And so they tell us to kind of match up with somebody our own speed, similar speeds. And so guys don't really know each other that well yet. So we're kind of going around and trying to figure out, okay, who do I run with? What do you run? Are you fast? Are you slow? Whatever. And so I'm at that time, I'm pretty fast runner. I run a 6'6", 60. And so in my life, I never, in those, 60-yard dashes my whole life, I never lost in any of those. I usually win by a decent amount. Every now and then at a showcase or something, I might run into a couple of players that run a little bit faster than 6'6". And so I'm trying to find somebody that's pretty fast. And I can't find really anybody that's around my speed. And then they say, well, why don't, I think you and Jacoby should race. And I said, okay. So I said, hey, Jacoby, what do you usually run your 60? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I go, well, you usually run it pretty fast? He's like, yeah, I run okay. Yeah, I run decently well. And I was like, okay, fine. All right, we'll race together. And so I have no idea what's about to happen. And so we line up. And so he lines up in front of me here, and I'm behind him right here. And so we get ready, and they say ready, set, they drop the hat. And when they drop the hat, we both take off. So he takes off, and I feel like I get out to a little bit of the lead. I cross over, and I can feel myself. I can't see him out of the side of my view here. And so that's about 3 strides, and I get out. And in my mind, I'm already thinking like, all right, I got this race won. Like usually if I beat the guy off the start, they're not going to catch me. So I'm like 3, 4 strides in, and then all of a sudden, I see something coming into my view, and then he's just gone. And I feel like I'm running in slow motion, and I look over and I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? And so he just blowing past me. And I've never in my life, like I said, I've never lost in any of these races. And like growing up, you have races with friends and stuff. I'm usually almost always, I think I have always been the fastest player on almost all my teams and like in recess and stuff. So I'm not used to losing really any races. And he destroys me. Like he must have finished 3 full strides ahead of me. So we finish. And I'm like, I didn't feel like I ran slow. I felt like I ran just as fast as I always did. So I'm like walking back and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And now at this point, everyone's kind of like talking like, oh my God, did you see him just run that race? Like that was unbelievable. So we come back and I go over to him. I'm like, kind of like confused, and I'm like, hey, Jacoby, like, what do you run the 60 in? And he's like, I don't know. I usually run like 6'2" or so. And I'm like, oh, huh? What? 6'2"? I'd never heard of anyone running. Like 6'5" was probably the fastest I see. I'd probably maybe seen a couple 6'4s, but so it turned out that they said he ran a 6'19", which again I've never heard of a 6'19" before, and I ran a 6'6", which is still considered pretty fast, and he crushed me. And not only that, after he told me he runs like a 6'2", I started laughing, and then I was also like, dude, like, you could have given me a heads up. I would have raced somebody else if I knew you ran a 6'2". I asked you right before the race, and you said, oh, I run decently well. You're the fastest human I've ever seen. Then he says, well, yeah, actually, growing up as a kid, my brother and I, in our backyard, we used to, there was usually deer out there. And, I would race the deer. So, like, the deer would take off and I'd run after it and try to catch it. And one day I did. I tackled the deer and I chased it down. And I was like, I've never met anybody that chases and catches deer before. That would have been another story that would have been useful about 5 minutes ago. So I could have went and ran against a catcher or something. So that was the most impressive probably that I've ever been on a field. I've never seen anybody that fast. I've never been crushed that much in a race. I've never seen anyone catch a deer before. And those all three of those things happened to me within 5 minutes. So, and then as the season went on, we got out of Scout Day, went to the regular season, we played more games, and then you realize, like, holy crap, this kid is the fastest guy ever. He just flies. It actually doesn't even look like he's trying hard or trying to run hard, and he just right down the line, like, still to this day, probably the fastest dude I've ever seen on a baseball field. Just unbelievable. And in center field, he could go and get everything in center field. So it was crazy. So that's my story, my Jacoby Ellsbury story, the time I've been probably most impressed on the field in my baseball career. So let me know if you have any more questions in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. Give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. Share the video with all your friends. Check out the description box below. We've got a deal going on with Plate Crate. You guys can get 50% off your first Plate Crate if you go to the link in the description box. Type in Antonelli and you'll get your 50% off. We've also got a link to our Patreon page where you can support the channel, and we've got a bunch of other stuff, so definitely go and do all of that. That would be terrific. And that's all I have. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later.